motion has accordingly been adopted.
Welcome back. This is Newsfile, live on the Joy News channel on Multi TV and live on Joy 99.7 FM here in Accra and Love 99.5 FM in Kumasi. On social media, YouTube and Facebook, we are streaming this show live. My name is Philip Osei Bonsu. In studio, we have Dr. Priscilla Chumesi Balfour joining us. She is an economist and senior lecturer, Department of Economics, University of Ghana, Legon. So she'll be joining our three gentlemen in studio. Yao Apia Latte is still here with us, Honorable Isaac Adongo, and Dr. Mahama Tia Abdul Kabiru, both members of Parliament and all serving on the Finance Committee in Parliament. So the rest of the time will be for the 2026 budget, as presented by the Minister in charge of Finance on behalf of His Excellency, the President. Before we zoom into the real details, Yao would help us through a brief presentation that captures all the critical parts of this budget. And Deloitte has put together this presentation. So Yao, over to you. Let's do it.
My opportunity.
Your 1 minute.
Of refusing me my 1 minute. What's the issue?
It's a problem. Okay, you let me do you the
answer. No, I just want to put on record that Tokono, so far in our discussion, we've not been told of any law she has breached. In the case of the EC, it was clear violation of procurement law, which can even send you to prison. Again, it's not for anyone to determine how the minority will conduct its business.
Okay.
And for anyone to suggest that it was disservice to our constituent, which also do not also reflect on what our constituents think. And to even suggest that the minority are not Ghanaians, and that to say that it's only the minority is to belittle the people we represent. We represent millions of Ghanaians on this matter. Lastly, I don't know whether it is probably also Vicky, the only woman who is also supporting this injustice against another woman. Otherwise, I will not understand why, if she has special issues with the Tokono, it could be special issue, but to suggest that it is a minority issue with the Tokono and it's not the country issue is to belabor the point. It's not ECOWAS determining. She's a lawyer and we are all lawyers.
You are reopening this conversation.
It's not ECOWAS determining.
You are reopening this conversation.
ECOWAS is a court.
You are not being fair. Let's move on.
There's a charter. There's a charter that guides Ghana's participation in this international.
That lady who spoke is not here. She's not here to defend herself.
To that extent,
that's fine.
That court is part of the laws of the country once we've ratified the ECOWAS charter. So it is not somewhere sitting there when creating the perception that it is
ECOWAS determining for us. That's fine. That's fine. Thank you. I think you.
The lady is not here. It's not fair.
And that's what the reason
this is emotional blackmail to say that she's a lady against another lady. That's emotional
it's not emotional blackmail to say a minority.
Okay, it's fine. It's fine. I think we've all had our say. Thank you.
It's a blackmail.
Do you think
please take it away and do this?
But it's the minority that is against it.
Honorable members of Parliament.
Everybody knows that.
Thank you.
The minority. Why are you suggesting that?
Yes.
Who spoke? Sophia Akufu is minority.
Who is? Oh, Masa.
Sophia Akufu is a minority.
Thank you. So we go to the slides.
Sure.
I think this is a summary of economic data. So in the last 2 years, and then first quarter, as well as, let's say, the third quarter of the year, and then the target for 2026. So overall GDP, in 2024, we ended with a GDP of 5.7%. We projected that this year, we're going to achieve a GDP of 4%. At half year, our GDP growth was 6.3%, which is impressive, and over and above our target for the year of 4%. We are targeting a GDP growth of 4.8%. The good thing is our non-oil GDP has shown an impressive growth, and I think over the last 3 or 4 years, there's been decline in production in our Jubilee field because of certain factors, and as a result of that, our non-oil GDP has showed impressive growth. I think it's good for us as a country because we don't want to overly rely on our oil resources. We have to diversify into other areas. So non-oil GDP in the first quarter of the year is about 7.8% compared to a target in 2026 of 4.9%. That's impressive. And then on budget deficits, as a country, we've passed the Fiscal Responsibility Act.
Sure.
which mandates that our budget deficit is less than 5%. During the COVID period, we suspended it. But I think in the last 2 or 3 years, we've operated below the 5%, which is still in line with the IMF program and some of the conditionalities there. So that's a good one. And inflation in 2025, we project inflation to end at about 12.9% thereabout, but we've achieved a single-digit inflation. So as of September, it was 9.4%. In October, it's 8%. And next year, we are projecting at about 8% plus or minus 2%, which is good. I think if you look at the contribution of the various sectors to the economy, sector, services sector, and industry. So in the last 10 years or so, agriculture, which used to be the mainstay of our economy, has displaced and now taken over by the service sector. That has its own pluses and minuses. In the service sector front, you need certain or minimum skill to operate in the sector. So for you to act or operate as a lawyer, etc., you need certain qualifications. But in the agri sector, you need little or no qualification to operate in. So I think government should have policies supporting the agri and industry sector, because that's where you employ a lot of people who have little or no education. Same as the messy middle, which is industry. The agri sector supports the industry sector. So if you have policies supporting the agri sector and the industry sector, we grow the economy without overly relying on the service sector. I think in the last 9 months, to say, we've had return to single-digit inflation, which is a very good development. Debt to GDP ratio has reduced to now 45%. Disinflation, CD appreciating by about 35%. We have formalization of the gold sector, now gold board, and then increased non-oil sector GDP or dominance, as we said. And we have some positive rating by our credit rating agency and IMF program as well. So let's look at the trend. I think there's this discussion about government sitting on spending and not spending much, and also on the revenue side. So if you look at the revenue front, we missed our targets for the first 9 months by about 1.5%. Just about 1 so we just grew by about 1.5. So that's an impressive development. I think we missed it in areas of domestic revenue, tax revenue, and areas that we did so well was non-tax revenue. So I think that we should not overly concentrate on taxation. We should also look at other sources of revenue to support our economy. Same on the expenditure front. So we underspent by about 6.7%, which is good. And that supports the fact that government is now scrutinizing expenditure. And the areas that you overspent was compensation. There were some labor union activities. So obviously in the health and education sector, we saw some overspend. That was underspend in interest payment, grants, and also capital expenditure. That's a very good development. But I think let's look at the trend. On the revenue side, we have 83% of our revenue sources from, so we have about 83% of our revenue sources from taxation. If you look at it, you say it's an economy that's overtaxed. We should have it balanced. I mean, I was showing this chart to someone from Nigeria. He says, look, tax is just about less than 50%. So they have revenue from other sources. But for us, about 83% on taxation. So I think it's something that we should address. We should diversify our revenue source and look at other areas. On the expenditure,
even that we are told for tax to GDP, we have the lowest. And
that's where the problem is. So we have instances where we are not taxing enough. Yes, if you look at the revenue sources, it's significantly dependent on tax. So it means that whilst we are looking at other sources of revenue, we should also broaden the tax base and also diversify our revenue sources. On the expenditure front, you see that there's significant allocation to compensation. That obviously is driven by other factors such as what we are hearing, that nurses, guys in the labor front, also in the education sector are going on strike and governments are ceding to their request. But I think what is instructive is first on the interest payment. Interest payment is just about 20%. It used to be as high as 30% before the debt restructuring program. Now, interest payment is about 19%. And capital expenditure, which used to be between 11 to 13%. Now, capital expenditure is about 19%. So some of the very aggressive and ambitious programs that government intends to embark on are going to be supported or funded through the budget program. And I think that's good. If you are going to do this capital expenditure in areas that will support productivity or industry sector, our budget deficit over the years, like I showed before, so it was 7.9 in an election year, but then we're now below the 5% threshold. We should keep to this. We do not have to base it because you've left the IMF program or you've left the fund program. We should keep to the less than 5% budget deficit, because widening the budget deficit means that we have to end up borrowing, and that's a risk for us. And our debt to GDP, look at it, it went all the way to as high as 80%. Now, as we speak, it's about 45%. And under the fund program, the expectation is at 55%. So 45% is more than exceeding the expectation of the target. So that's good. And this is the trend. I think the key driver of this is consolidation of public finances through critical scrutiny of government expenditure. The second thing is reduce external borrowing. We were priced out of, or we could not access the capital markets, and then appreciation of the local currency. I recall in 2022, in the year 2022, our debt increased cumulative by 93 billion on account of the depreciation of the local currency alone. So in the same vein, our debt has reduced significantly by about 150 billion on account of appreciation of local currency. So that's a very good development. And I said before, S&P has now upgraded Ghana, so now we are no longer at the risk of default. We are now rated better, and that signifies an investor confidence in the system. Now, the good thing is the sinking fund is operational. The sinking fund is a fund that you set to help you repay your debt. So you don't have a situation where you get to a point where you default and you're unable to service your debt. So I think that's something that we should commend government for. And then we should ensure that we are keeping to the sinking fund and make sure we are funding that account. Some ambitious programs, the big push.
So maybe you wrap up on this.
Yes, yes. So the big push, the Ministry of Roads, among others. And I think maybe I'll hit on the taxes.
Okay.
So now the COVID-19 levy has been removed. That's a very good development because it has a sunset clause. We should not be charging COVID-19 where we do not have COVID. Same thing with the decoupling of the tax, the VAT system, and the reduction of the VAT from 21.9% to now 20%. That's almost 2 percentage point reduction in VAT. It's still high because in sub-Saharan Africa, it's average around 15%. So about 20% is still high, 5 percentage points higher than what we see in other countries. So I think these are very good developments, and I think that governments riding on the back of some very good achievement in the first 9 months, we should build on that to improve productivity. And then
in 2026.
Yes.
That's fine. Thank you so much. That's the work done by Deloitte for us. Captures, the details of the 2026 budget statement in clear terms, so you're able to make a decision for yourself. Before I bring in our two members on the Finance Committee, let me pick the thought of Dr. Pressler on what we all heard from the Finance Minister. Doc, what do you think? What are the big things you heard in this budget? And is this the budget we need to move to the next stage?
Right. Thank you very much, Philip. And good morning to your cherished viewers and listeners. I must say that it is not surprising what we heard in the budget. This is the last budget in the 3-year period of the IMF program. And so essentially the budget is very heavy on fiscal discipline for Ghana to maintain the path that we are on. We are excited about the stability we observe currently, and this stability is critical. And when you look at what is in the budget, you see that the government is riding on the stability to move on to other things, which is important because we say that there is the need for us to invest in the structural challenges we have, which consistently makes the growth of the economy not very employment generating, because unemployment is increasingly becoming a problem. And so it is not surprising that the budget lays a lot of emphasis on fiscal discipline. And for us as analysts, we are watching the space, particularly as the country exits the IMF program next year, mid-next year, because we know that historically, when Ghana is under a fund program,
we do well.
We do well. We perform excellently. Because when you look at the statistics Yao shared, you see that everything is on track. GDP growth is on track. We have achieved a single-digit inflation, which was even towards the end of the year, is being achieved currently. And so going forward within the budget, what is interesting to me is the way the government is using the stability we have obtained to try to go into the future in terms of infrastructural projects, in terms of budgeting for employment, for example. For someone with labor background, I'm excited to see that increasingly we are focusing on jobs when we talk about budgets in this country, which is critical. And so I see that this budget is also quite sensitive to the needs of the Ghanaian people in terms of social protection. investment in education and health. All these are on the back of the stability that we observe. And I must indicate that the stability we are presently enjoying is the fact that a number of sectors are doing well, particularly on the back of gold and cocoa. Right, and these critical minerals, the pricing is determined externally.
Sure.
And it's also because of some of the turbulent situations we've seen on the global front. That is why gold has done significantly well in recent times. And so going forward, I think that the investments locally, opportunities for value addition, employment generation, so that we build resilience in the situation where gold underperforms, in the situation where cocoa underperforms. That should be the direction of
a fallback plan.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah.
And one other thing is the choice of the areas government wants to invest, to bring about the growth in employment figures we are seeing. Government chooses to invest in commercial agriculture, in this case, palm plantations, and the expectation is that many jobs will be created in there, and also investment in roads. Government speaks about the Accra to Kumasi Expressway, which is expected to create some 300,000 plus jobs. Do you think that is the way to go from what you're saying, Doc?
I think it is important, but when we talk about employment generation, we should also focus on the generation of sustainable and decent jobs. Okay. Because when you look at the 300,000 jobs in the construction that is proposed, you see that these are temporary jobs. Okay. And so essentially, but it is important. I think we need to start from somewhere. My only reservation is that a lot of these big projects are usually consistently promised in budgets, but they are not delivered. And so when you look at this, I'm looking at the funding sources, for example, the proposed funding sources for this. You see
that's for the road project?
Exactly.
Yeah, government says they budgeted 30 billion.
Exactly.
Ghana is for the big push.
For the big push, yes. Right. So the big push, I think that they are budgeting that from the ABFA, and there's also the proposal to use some of other mineral resources, sure. Proposal for private public partnerships. Yeah. And so when it comes to, for example, public-private partnerships, the private sector would want to ride on the confidence that we have, which is the stability. And that is why I insist that the stability we are observing, we need to guard it as much as possible, because anything that derails, that means that all these plans will be thrown out of gear. And so essentially, if the private sector is going to partner with government, they need some level of certainty. Sure. Some level of protection, and also some level, projection of the revenues that will be out there. And so you look at the reintroduction of tolls. Yes. When the highways are done, we know that there will be some introduction of tolls. Would those be enough for private sector to be able to get their investments back in due time? These investments are very long-term investments, yes. And that would require some level of continuity in our governance space. And so, for example, I think that as a country, we always insist on the need for us to think long-term, and that the periodic changes in government and shifts in policy stance do not really augur well for investment, particularly if government is going on the tangent of PPP, which is private sector participation. They need that assurance, and they need that level of continuity to be able to do that.
That's fine. Thank you so much, Dr. Priscilla Twumasi Balfour. Let me remind our listeners and our viewers that because of the critical nature of our budget conversation, the production team has approved the extension of time by some 30 minutes. So the show ends today at 12:30 p.m. and we are grateful to the production team for doing this for us. Honorable Adongo, I'll now come to you. The budget has been presented. You are the chairman of the Finance Committee. Now that there is budget committee, the budget will go to the budget committee first, right? Or it will come to your committee? Okay.
The budget committee would look at the appropriation in the end and also consider other government obligations, which are the centralized expenditure handles that are under the Ministry of Finance that are spent for the benefit of the entire economy. So wage bill, interest payments, transfers to statutory funds, those are other government obligations, and they will be dealt with by the
budget committee. Okay.
But let me say that I'm also part of the budget committee.
Oh, you are? Wow. So which part of the budget will come to the finance committee?
So the finance committee would consider the Ministry of Finance as a macro fiscal institution.
Okay.
It's a macro fiscal institution because it handles the macro as well as also acting as though it is a sector ministry which deals with the Ministry of Finance and its agencies. So those agencies will be brought to the finance committee. Most of the enabling legislation that would empower the minister to implement the budget, like the revenue bills and some of the instruments, would pass through the finance committee for us to get them approved so the minister is empowered to implement them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. As a member of the majority, the party which has formed government, when you scan through social media, I mean, the general feedback you get from people who are apolitical is that this seems to be a good budget, how it was presented, the details of it and all of that. You should be excited as government, no?
Yes, but we know that it's a difficult task. We inherited a government where, we were constrained by many factors. First, we needed to work within the space of the IMF program, which had several benchmarks that had derailed, and we needed to bring it back on board. We had constrained because we had been blocked out of the international capital market. Even our own domestic lenders did not trust the government. So the domestic capital market was gone, and we were only restricted to the short end of the market, and we needed only to borrow on the short term. And if you're a finance person, you will know that that comes with a lot of risk. You have refinance risk, basically using short-term funding to fund long-term projects. Clearly, you have a misalignment when it comes to your obligations. So we needed to address all of that. But we also knew that most of the economic variables, I would call them, were misbehaving. They were misbehaving because they were responding to the misbehavior in the management of the economy. For instance, if you had an economy where about 80 billion Ghana cedis has been printed and pumped into the economy, okay, what do you think those monies will go? And especially when your capital market is gone. So there are no opportunities to invest those kind of monies. It will find its way into the forex market because people then go to buy the forex. That is a clear misconduct that is enforced by the management of the economy. And you needed to sanitize that and bring some behavior to bear on that. So what did we do? I watched a program when one of my colleagues was at pains to explain that we had sanitized or sterilized about 60 billion, and he didn't understand why. That is high-powered money. And high-powered money operates as though you have a rebel or mercenaries coming into your country and holding raffles. They will kill anybody outside, right? So when you pump 80 billion into the economy that doesn't belong there, you need to find them and lock them up if you want to bring behavior to bear on your inflation, interest rate, and exchange rate. So the first thing we did was to make sure that all those mercenaries are back to border. Okay, so we sterilized close to 70 billion, and that is very expensive. So you now have at the Bank of Ghana close to 70 billion of high-powered money sitting there and isolated from the economy so that we can isolate the noise from the economy and see the economy for what it is. So the end result is that all those extra money that we're chasing forex are gone. So the forex now is responding to need, not just noise. Okay. Then you had a situation where, as a result of this, your inflation was around 26 or 23%. What that means is that to move to real interest rate territory, you needed a buffer around 23%. So 23% plus a buffer gives you a real interest rate. So you wouldn't be surprised that a government was borrowing at 32, 33%. Now you have isolated that. What you are seeing is that inflation is well behaved And as a result of that, you can borrow at 11.4%. Okay, so that is what we did. Now, you would also realize that because of all these variables, we are seeing stability. But when you see stability, the next step is that your stability itself has an impact in your growth numbers, because you know that once inflation is decelerating, the advantage you get is that your deflator becomes smaller. And as a result, you begin to see growth. So the growth that we are seeing was largely about creating sanity within the space. Now, the second one is that we also realized that our fiscal environment was also misbehaving. So we needed to stop that. And the only way you could stop that is to pass reforms. So we came to Parliament and said, look, you cannot just be contracted anyhow. So before you can contract, we want to amend the PPA Act and say that you must come for commencement authorization. So nobody
from the finance ministry.
Yes, from the finance ministry. So we made the PPA the gatekeeper. If anybody comes here to say he wants to procure, ask them whether they have authorization and the government has agreed that it has money to spend.
Yeah.
Okay, so the gatekeeper now made sure that it was waiting for the Minister of Finance. So the Minister of Finance now had the responsibility to vet all those things before they were procured. So you see that commitment controls, began to work. And the advantage of that is that we're able to basically get a handle on the fiscal anchor, which is that we're able to pay all our expenses and leave something to pay down our debt service. So after paying for compensation, paying for statutory funds, and paying for capital expenditure, all generated domestically, you then have the equivalent of 1.5% of your GDP. And our GDP is in the region of close to 800 billion Ghana cedis.
Yes.
Calculate 1.5% of that, which is available for you to pay your debt service, pay for interest, and pay some of your amortization. So you begin to see that for the first time, our rate of debt accumulation moved into negative territory because we're not adding on to our debt. We're paying off the debt and leaving some to pay off the accumulated principal. So once we got a handle on all of that, now we move to 2026, where we now want to make use of what we have done. So if you look at the fiscal objectives for the 2026 budget, the first thing is that we'll continue to consolidate the stability. We don't want to lose focus on inflation, on interest rates, and all those variables. And we think that the fiscal anchor must be maintained. So that is the first step. The second step is that having done that, we must move into the phase of transformation and job creation. Because the stability was creating that growth, it was not job creating enough. So we now have to move into the next phase of transformation and job creation. How do you achieve that? We agree that over the years, we have not been able to renew our infrastructure. So the big push is part of the transformation to renew our infrastructure. And I heard you mention the Accra Expressway.
Yes.
For those of you who know Ghana very well, that is the gateway to what we call the Northern Ringway.
Sure.
Okay. So you go to Ashanti region through the expressway, you hit Techiman, you go through Wenchi, you end up at Sola, takes you to Wa, and then to Tumu, all the way back to Boga, and then you can go to Boku. From there, you use Pasenkwe, hit through Nalelu, and you are back to Walwale, and then you come back or alternatively, you use the other intermodal road, which takes you through Ho, okay, and takes you to
the Eastern Corridor.
Have, and at Have, you decide whether you want to go through Kwando or you want to come to Hohoi and go through Kwanta, go through Pasa, Otidemanko, and back to that, what do you call it? That, what is it? Former ministers.
Panda, no.
No, not Panda. That road takes you to.
Is it? Damongo?
Bimbila. Takes you to Bimbila to Yendi, and you are back in Tamale, and you can decide to go this way and go through the Upper East and all those, or you go this way and go through Solar and all of that. So you can see a broad range of road infrastructure that will be renewed by the big push. And it is a calculated attempt to give Ghana a chance to reform our infrastructure. Now, for those of you who are in the West, you know that you can go through central region, end up in western region.
And then western north.
Then you go through Asenkregwa, you go through Enchi, you enter Dwabuso, come through Sehiri also, and then use Bebieni and back to Kumasi. So we are reforming the entire road network. It's a deliberate policy. And that is something that if we achieve, we would be able to leave to the people of Ghana a renewed infrastructure that will underpin the transformation of our country. And I had my colleagues.
But the question is about how are we funding?
I will do that. You see, I had my colleagues hold a press conference, and my good friend and brother, Mohammed Amin, was at pains to say that we budgeted for 13.7 billion and we committed 63 billion. Clear lack of understanding of project management. If you want to put $10 billion on the ground in 4 years, what you do is that the first year, you do a lot of preparatory work. You are now going to identify all these roads I have mentioned. You are going to do inventory of all those roads. How many bridges you need to have, where do you need to excavate, and where do you need to backfill. You do all of that, put together a design. And after the design, you have to now put together a bill of quantities and start contracting. So you want to be ready when you enter 2026, that you have a pool of projects that are already contracted and can start. You don't do that in 2026. You do that in 2025. And put and contract 63 billion, that even if you do 50% of that on the ground in 1 year, that gives you the 30 billion you are supposed to spend in that year. Okay? What they are saying is that contract for 13 billion, and then the next year, come and now start the process to contract. By the time you contract, you are in the 6th month of the year. Clearly, you can't spend 30.
So essentially, you're saying the 13.8 billion budgeted for Big Push this year was used to do
part of it has been done, and part of it is there. The money is ring-fenced. Don't forget, it is coming out of ABFA and other resources. So it's already there. But what I'm saying is that because of that, when we came to Parliament last year or this year, we didn't only mention Big Push for that year, but we spelled out and gave clarity to the medium-term outlook, what we call the multi-year expenditure framework.
Sure.
We brought that. And if you put the expenditure framework over 4 years together, that is why we are contracted. So there is a parliamentary approval to commit the state to the 63 billion, so that you can now be implementing, and as you implement, you develop new ones, so that in the end you can do the 10 billion, which is the equivalent of 100 billion Ghana cedis. So what we are seeing is clear project management thinking that says, let's do most of our preparatory work this year. Let's get a number of projects on our books that when we start implementation proper, by the close of the year, we would have done the equivalent of 30 billion of projects on the ground that our budget can accommodate. Then the following year, if we do another 50%, we have another 30 billion. By which time, we will have developed new projects and continue the journey. So for those who don't understand project management and are thinking that we have committed 63, and because of that they are worried, they should go and read their books about project management. If you don't do that, what it means is that to be able to spend 30 billion, you have to crash the project. And when you crash a project, you put more resources, and that becomes very expensive. We want to deliver Big Push in the most efficient and effective manner to the people of Ghana. And that is why we are forward-looking in developing and making sure that the preparatory works are completely done. So that is the first one. The second transformation, we realize that one of the major bottlenecks to our country is our energy future. So we are aware that we have serious legacy problems in the energy sector. We spend the first year stabilizing energy and making sure that we deal with the issue of the energy sector debt. And that is why you will find that we have renegotiated most of the IPPs. Okay? But in doing that, we also know that there are some IPPs that are not likely to be interested in the model that we are operating. And for those that don't want to commit long term, we must prepare for them. In the event that they exist, how do we fill the gap of the energy loss? And it is the reason His Excellency says he will construct a government-sponsored thermal plant of 1,200 megawatts, so that for those who want to exit, we'll have ready-made power to fill in. But to do that, we are doing the entire value chain, So you will see we are spending a lot of money to build a second gas plant at Atuabo. Okay? And that will produce over 150 million standard cubic feet of gas to power our energy sector. We are retooling most of our energy, we are repurposing most of them to make sure that they are more efficient. But also we are also improving the mix of power. So we are negotiating down most of the rates that were negotiated for our solar power to bring it down to reasonable levels. We're doing 12 cedis per megawatt hour. We have negotiated down to something around 6. We know that if we begin to add more and it's government sponsored, we'll be able to bring it down. Let me tell you, most of the IPPs have a financing cost of 12% on a dollar bill. That is very expensive. And I heard you mention the fact that the rating agencies, Moody, Fitch, Standard & Poor's, have all upgraded Ghana away from a junk status to investment grade status. What that means is that the advantage of that should count for something in terms of our costs. Why should we still be paying 12% to borrow when the yields on our bonds today is in the region of about 7%, 6%? So we are trying to assist those agencies to replace those expensive financing arrangements so that tariffs will come down. So the most important thing is that we want to make sure that we build for our energy future. Then we can properly address the problem of transformation. For those who are shouting everywhere that we can't put the lights on and we can't do 24-hour economy, they should tell me the last time the lights were switched off. But beyond the lights not being switched off is that we are investing more into the future. And the work that young man, John Jenapo, has done is amazing. For those of you who are not close to him, go and learn the lessons. And we will fix that problem and make sure that even the leakages within the energy sector will address that. And we have a clear program to make sure that those financing are done from within Ghana. And the resources are there, the policies are there, and he will be assisting me to approve some of them in the next few days. So we are very clear. Okay. We are very clear what the strategy is. We are very clear that the resources are here, and we will find the dollar money within here and spend the money.
The overarching question, Honorable, is that, and I think Doc mentioned that any time the IMF is in town,
yes,
the records show that we do well.
That is why we are not discussing a successor program. You see?
No, I'm coming.
I can understand what you're saying.
So this year,
yes,
we are still under an IMF program. So I've heard people saying, hasten slowly. That we should reduce the praises of government. The real test will be when IMF leaves from the middle of next year, if we can maintain the discipline and still hold the system.
So let me tell you something. Yesterday, my brother said that given the amount of intervention in the market,
yes,
you would have expected that the cedi would be trading around 8 cedis. And I said, what? We pumped 60 billion of borrowed money, and the cedi went to 17%, 17 cedis. Or you don't remember? We're doing 3 billion every year.
Yes, from the capital market.
And it didn't stop the cedi from sliding.
No.
And now, let me make my point. I'm explaining something.
So there are two.
So let me tell you.
Were they specifically for?
If 3 billion couldn't solve it, they are talking about 1.4. You see, there's a clear forex framework that is operated in this country. The forex that are generated by the economy. Ordinarily, those money should be going to the commercial banks to intermediate. Okay? So, if you understand the framework, what they call intervention are clearly financial intermediation. Gold board buys gold from ordinary Ghanaians who go to mine. Shouldn't that money be going into the banks? We export cocoa produced by ordinary cocoa farmers. Shouldn't those monies be going to the banks to facilitate import of goods and services? We call that intermediation. But the framework says that, look, take all your flows, set aside government requirements, government forest requirements, including the energy sector bills. What you have now left, make sure that you take care of the accumulation of your reserves. And by the way, Ghana has exceeded its accumulation requirement under the IMF program. This year, we're supposed to accumulate an additional of about $840 million. As of last month, we were doing $1.2 billion, far ahead of the target. Okay? So the difference that is there, what do you do with it? You send it back where it belongs. And the IMF understand that that is not intervention, that is financial intermediation. So people ignorantly who don't understand the framework that is being used, even IMF initially thought that it was intervention until we explained to them that those monies that come in belong to where we have sent them back. And
so
that
it's
is financial
intermediation,
it's intermediation.
And not intervention.
Yes, there is element of intervention when the market is imperfect.
Yes.
And there are constraints within the market. Then you can intervene. But I'm saying that a lot of those monies that they are calling intervention is financial intermediation. Forex intermediation.
Then, I think you've spoken.
So part of the transformation.
Wrap up for me.
Part of the transformation is to create the goalposts that you have spoken about, some of them. One, we want to make sure that when gold is in trouble, what happens? So we are trying to find the next cocoa.
Which is palm.
Which is palm, cashew, all those agribusiness, and the Ministry of Trade and Industry, which is now adding agribusiness, is being empowered to make sure that we produce those things, to create employment, but also to create additional forex revenue. Now, apart from that, you need to understand that part of the architecture of the next 2026 is to scale up social spending. So, Get Fund. Get Fund allocation was about 3.6 billion. And out of the 3.6 billion, there's something they call Dachi. They went to borrow. Okay? They went to collateralize future monies that they hadn't seen and took billions of dollars. And the Get Fund was servicing at 1.2 billion a year. Take that out of 3.4.
You don't have anything.
You get about 2.5. And now,
okay.
Now we are giving Get Fund 9.9 billion in 1 year. It has never happened. And we are saying we want to go and
give me a minute.
Well, it's unfortunate we don't have
No,
time,
I'm coming. Just give me a minute. This is Newsfile. We have to break briefly here. I hear there is a challenge with your microphone, so we fix that and then we come back. And Honorable Kabir would also have his say. So a short break and then we'll be back to continue with this. Welcome back. This is Newsfile live on the Joy News channel on Multi TV. I'm Philip Osei-Bonsu. We are discussing the 2026 economic policy and budget statement from the president, which was read on behalf of him by the finance minister, Dr. Kisiel Ato-Forson. So far, we've heard from Yawapia Lati presenting Deloitte and Touche analysis of the budget. And then Dr. Priscilla Chumesi Bafo gave us her initial view on the entire 2026 budget. I'll get back to her for another round. But we heard from Honorable Isaac Adongo, Chair of the Finance Committee in Ghana's Parliament, with quite an elaborate exposition on the budget. Let me get to pick the initial comment of Dr. Mahamatia Abdul Kabiru, also who serves again on the Finance Committee. Doc, your views on the 2026 budget. I mean, as I said earlier, generally you find a lot of commendation on social media, at least for the job the Finance Minister did. What do you think?
Yeah, let me start with the good work job done. Mm-hmm. And probably it's quite not often that when we speak, people think that it's all about politics. It's good work done because the finance minister has removed the COVID-19 levy in consonance with the provisions of the bill that put in that particular law, and also in consonance with their own campaign promise. It's a campaign promise delivered, even though we had issues with the timing, but they explained why they could not remove it in the first year, and they are removing it in the year for 2026. Mm-hmm. So understood, that's something good. It is also good that we have some stability, and that stability is at a particular cost, which most of us have not talked about. Even on this particular table, we've not even discussed the cost of that stability. Okay, but in the meantime, let's give them the benefit of that stability, that we have some stability and that people are happy. At least the Ghanaian cedi is first stable. But there are certain comments we will need to correct here. Reserves exceeded the IMF target even before the MPP left office. Close to 4 months of import cap.
I'm sorry, you are misunderstanding. I'm saying that this year... No. There is always an annual target.
Okay,
and I'm saying that
you're talking
year...
I'm not denying. I'm saying that. You are saying this year. I'm saying that even last year, 2024, the reserves exceeded the IMF target. Okay. But the government could only intervene to the tune of 80 million in the market. What is the difference between immediation and what do you call it, intervention?
They are completely different.
The difference is that, one, you are relying on available money in the system, directing it, i.e., if World Bank gives them money, if cocoa syndicated, all those money goes to the people, demand for dollar will normalize, and there's not going to be pressure. That is mediation. Intervention is when you directly auction amount to demand those people who are demanding the dollar. That's different. And the Bank of Ghana has stated clearly, with clear terms, that even the last month, they intervened over 1 billion in the market directly. It's not any mediation of money. It's people going to them and they are auctioning the dollar to them. So we should not use flowery language. We should not use flowery language to deceive Ghanaians. That is intervention. Again, 8 billion is what they have auctioned. It's what they have auctioned to the people, to Ghanaians who demand this forex in the last 9 months, 10 months, which translates to about 1 billion every month. Compare that to 80 million every month that the previous government was expected to do. Definitely, you can't expect the same movement of the cedi of the cedi dollar in terms of the depreciation of one against. Again, the finance minister stated on paragraph 1183 of his presentation, and I quote, "The 63 billion road contract awarded so far under the big push will generate an estimated 490,000 jobs," unquote. What is the confusion about this statement? 63 billion roads contract awarded so far.
That's commitment.
Awarded so far. It's not saying that I am committing in 2026. It's not saying that I'm committing into the future. In that case, government we approve for the minister 13 billion appropriation.
Yes.
You cannot commit above appropriation. You cannot commit above, and you are talking of financial discipline. What's the discipline?
Okay, so your issue with the 63 billion is that You approved 13.8
We approved
billion
13
for big
billion
push.
for them. Multi-year commitment were done, and that did not even include 63.
How
It
much
was
did
not
they-
that even if you added the
How much?
43,
Yeah, ask him how much.
if added the 43 to this, it is still 48 billion, around 48 billion. So the minister has no right to commit above appropriation, and we are saying that what you are appropriating is not discipline. You are even talking of discipline. Again, they talk about the growth, and the growth is my brother actually talked impressive half year. What was half year growth in the 2024? 7% to GDP. Even the economy that said it was junk managed. It was 7%. Here now we are doing what? 6.3. And an economy that was badly managed or junk, half year was 7%. This year it is 6.3. Let's not go. But I will analyze the budget in two folds. First, what did they promise us in 2025? What was delivered in 2025? What are their promises? And I'll match what they are promising us now against what they delivered to see whether or not they are able to deliver that. That is the only rational analysis of the budget. In 2024, for the 2025 budget, they said that they were going to deliver Women Development Bank with an initial commitment of 90 million.
No, at the time it was 51 million.
51 million.
Yes.
Nothing has been said of it. Nothing was done. That was a promise in the budget. And it created a lot of excitement among Ghanaians. Nothing was delivered on it. They said 24-hour economy. They mentioned it in that particular budget and gave a formula 1-3-3. 1 job, 3 sheep, 3 people. Nothing has been done.
They launched the policy document.
Nothing has been done. Well, Ghanaians were not looking for policy in 2025. They wanted to see 24-hour economy translating into their lifestyle. Again, they mentioned about 1 million coders program. Have you seen them talk about it?
Yeah, it was launched.
What has become of it?
Okay.
What has been said on it? I'm not talking about the numbers. I'm talking about the issues that affect the real Ghanaians. Again, they mentioned about their so-called, he failed to talk about the revenue failure. I will reserve that for another platform because revenue is a different matter. And I want to tie it to the 2026 budget. The big push. That year, 2025, they committed 13 billion. And how much did they spend? 7 billion. Almost 54% or less than 50%, less than half percent of that amount. Now, so this should tell you something. That it is not okay for government to come and promise and say that I'm going to do this and allocate figures and people are doing on the floor of parliament and people are happy. When you come to the implementation, what has been the history? Even your own 13 billion for your so-called big push in 2025, which was actually directed to Rose Elway, you've not even been able to do that. And you call that fiscal discipline. That's what we call fiscal deception. Because fiscal discipline is when you are cutting expenditure in non-high value ends. But why do you cut expenditure in capital investment and it's called a fiscal discipline? And you are increasing expenditure in compensation. Basically, that's what the government has done. Even in the presentation by Latin, compensation expenditure exceeded target. But capital investment, which is supposed to support economic growth, reduced. And you call that fiscal discipline, that roads are not necessary to be constructed, or you didn't get money to do the roads. Now, let's continue. Gold board. In the budget, we approved $279 million.
Ghana cedis.
It was in dollars.
It was dollars? Okay.
It was in dollars. Not a penny has been released to Gold Board from the government. Not even 1 cedi. Now, it is the central bank that is financing Gold Board. Sure. And central bank is directly pumping Ghanaian cedi. They are saying they are mopping, printing dollar, giving to the Gold Board.
Put him to strict.
You made a lot of business. Can you allow me?
Not funding Gold
Can
Board.
we have gone for right information.
And why is it?
Wait. In the fullness of time. In the fullness of time. Our colleague addressed Parliament. Our colleague
platform.
Central Bank.
Can you be patient?
Hold on.
I told you they were coming to the same budget.
So bring it.
Kabiru, hold on.
Bring your evidence. You can't just spew
So he speaks about evidence.
I am saying that.
Is it the case? Hold on. Is it the case that when the NDC took over with the gold purchase program that used to exist under you, it was the central bank funding PMMC then to buy gold?
Exactly so.
It's the same policy continuing.
No, but it's,
so why
it's not what they said in the budget.
It's not even.
So I am telling you their budget commitment vis-a-vis the execution of that budget and the realistic nature of the promises they are going to give us going to 2026. If you have not delivered on all your own, this, you see the euphoria around the first budget is even more than any euphoria we are getting in this particular budget. Yet they did less than 50% of that. Imagine this budget. Imagine this budget they are reading. Let's continue. Gold Board, you promised $279 million. Not one penny has been released to them. Central Bank, give them CD. They buy.
Where were you when they gave them CD? Bring your right to information.
But Honorable Adongo,
no, I can't sit here and allow him to
Are you
lie.
also saying the central bank is not advancing money to gold or to buy gold?
No.
So where is Gold Board getting their money from?
Look,
hold on.
This is a question to ask, but not to say that.
Okay, where are they getting their money from?
No, is that a conversation?
That's the question.
Let me
challenge it.
Okay, so let me explain to you.
Yes.
You see the auction he's talking about.
Sure.
It's not auction. I'm not talking about auction.
Let me come.
Well, no, if you are going to talk to auction, you have to go talk about auction. Let me finish my point. If you want to talk about auction, let me finish my point.
Okay.
We're not talking about auction.
Where is Gold Board getting their money from?
Simple question.
Yeah.
So I'm explaining to you.
Yes.
The auction is a 4SA.
It's not.
I'm coming.
Why? It's not talking of auction.
No, I cannot answer the question the way you want it.
No, then let me continue.
So let me answer it the way I want it. Why do you want me to answer the way you want it?
Yes.
The auction is a 4SA. Okay? So the banks come and say that this is what we want. Okay?
Yes.
They make the money available to buy gold and deliver forex. In a week's time, the forex is settled. It's a simple arrangement that ignorance is
not auction.
Okay,
it's not auction. You are not buying. No, you are not. I'm not auction. So you see, you are misleading.
He brought auction.
No, you are misleading. You are misleading. I'm saying auction in the context of forex demand. You don't demand forex to buy gold. You buy gold in Ghana City.
Okay,
you buy gold in Ghana City. So don't mislead Ghanaians. But you buy gold in Ghana City.
You see,
no. You are.
Okay, so
you are misleading.
Kabiru, yes.
You don't buy gold in dollars. So don't talk about forex auction.
I'm
talking about forex question in the interest of
the right
demand dollar
request has
to
been made.
import fuel.
When it comes,
honorable. When you were saying all the things I
financing Gold Board,
which I disagree.
That's fine.
Which I disagree. They told you where are they getting the money.
So where is it?
Kabiru, just ask you simple. You've not.
Now I'm explaining the auction.
It's not the auction.
Please allow him to proceed.
Let me
remind that. I cannot just answer the way.
Honorable, it's not the way. Simple.
It's fine.
Okay, so give me that.
No, this is not the House of Parliament. Please.
Answer for me.
We are not on the floor of Parliament.
Yeah, but
let him.
But be factual. Put people to strict.
Yeah, but that's what we've done. And we've also asked you similar questions. So let's.
You allow? You had uninterrupted 23 minutes.
Yes. I wasn't lying.
You had look. I had issues. I was noting them down, which I'm countering. Kabiru, proceed.
You
get it?
Proceed.
You had spewed a lot of lies, which I noted.
Kabiru, at least okay. Let us
understand.
The lie.
So you should at least also give me that particular decency and respect.
I have not approved any money to be given to Gold Board.
That's fine.
So, and I sit on the board. And you sit here and say that I have approved money to be given to Gold Board.
Adongo,
it's a lie.
You've answered. Let him proceed.
At the board, they are not consulting.
Okay, so
I'm telling you on authority that a right to information request.
Kabiru and Adongo, please, let's respect our viewers. Let's respect our Kabiru, proceed to the other point you have. Proceed to the other
point. But don't lie. I will let you talk. But if you lie, I will put you.
You see, Honorable Adongo told a lot of lies on this.
Me.
I noted them down to counter.
Yes, Adongo
so similar. You will have time.
Adongo, please not all your points. You will have another time. Fortunately, we've been given some additional
30 minutes
to end at 1 p.m. So yes, Kabiru, please make your point quickly, and then the other speakers.
Now there are discussions about inflation, and I said that look, inflation being at 8% on the books is good. On the external investor view about the economy is good. But at what cost? They talk about the fact that they have admitted that some 60 billion were taken out of the Ghanaian economy. And they say, oh, it's high-powered money. There are missionaries carrying guns. And that before you can get the economy not to misbehave, you have to kill the missionary. and the missionaries were
mercenaries.
You have to tame them.
You have to tame the missionaries.
Use
The missionaries
right
were
if you are
those.
speaking about me.
The missionaries were those people who were holding guns, and they have to bring them in check. Nice analogy. But have you wondered why there's a food glut? Have you wondered why? Have you wondered why now people don't have money to even go on with the transaction? Have you wondered why economic growth has contracted? The rate of growth has contracted. Have you wondered? Because demand, we all know, basic economics will tell you that once aggregate demand is reducing, productivity is going to reduce. Try learning in economics. So you are not working on the inflation from the supply side, you are working from the demand side. And that is the cause. That's what I'm saying, that we admit that the numbers look good. And that for investors, it is probably going to send a good signal. But it is at a cost that I would have expected that the rate, the IMF had a target. IMF has something in mind, and they set the target. They knew that if you want to squeeze the good people of Ghana and get the rate that you are supposed to achieve in 2026, you are going to put pressure on them. And that is essentially the reason why you give yourself some time within which you achieve what? Some targets. Mm-hmm. But the government says, okay, we want to be commended, so let's do what we're supposed to do in 2026, in 2025, at a cost to the good people of Ghana. Now, there's talk about, I'll get back to that particular exchange rate. Stability, well and good. The government has done well. CD is now trading for about 11 Ghana CD, when it was around, 14 Ghana CD.
At the time they took over.
Where was he buying that CD?
At the time
where was he buying it?
That...
No, I want to know where you were buying it. The 40 CDs, where were you buying it?
Your Bank of Ghana, which you have bought.
Official interbank rate as of January 7th.
Go to the Abuchi.
So, but if he's using
even the 11, I'm using the BOG rate. I'm saying that about 11, and I say about 12. I didn't say it's 10.94 as of Friday.
You know that, and you went to mention.
I'm saying that when you are saying about,
conveniently when say 11,
but
so you know it's 10.4.
But when something was 13.9 something, I say 14. What is wrong with that?
It cannot be.
Don't be appropriated, but when it favors you, you shouldn't be okay because it favors you.
I didn't know you know that figure.
So you acknowledge that there is some good news on the currency front.
I'm saying that was the rate as at yesterday.
Okay.
Do we know the rate today? So when I'm using approximation, he of all people
that's fine. That's fine. Yes.
Why people should use it because as at the time you are speaking, you don't have the figure.
That's fine.
And the BOG does not issue interbank rates on weekends. So that is the point. Now, you would do that because every month, you pump some $1 billion to support the demand for the currency. And you want to compare your results to someone who was restricted. Remind you, it was a condition that we needed to fulfill. Okay. That condition was removed at the end of 2025. Following the accumulation of the reserves and seeing that, okay, your reserves are now on a particular level threshold that we demand, then you can decide to do whatever you want to do with the difference. That's what he's saying. But remember, this week or last week, the BOE has itself come out to admit that, one, we were intervening. Two, our intervention brought stability. Three, we are now going to regulate the intervention by making sure that we do what we call strategic intervention to remove what they call market distortion. This is a clear admission by the central bank itself, saying that the stability we are getting is not born out of economic activities. It's not by the fact that we are now exporting more than we import.
Okay.
But it's because
just mention each of them and tell me where it has fallen.
It's because we are.
You see? So mention cocoa.
Let him finish. I don't have a laptop.
On the 2026 budget. I'll conclude on the 2026 budget.
Mention the
2026 budget.
Concluding.
You are telling us that capital investment in the 2026 budget is going to be around 3.6% of GDP. That's what they are proposing.
Okay.
That what?
And they are saying that they are now moving from stabilization to jobs,
transformation and jobs,
investment that will drive jobs, private sector private sector participation. That's what they stated in their budget. Now, their investment in infrastructure, with their so-called lofty Eastern corridor and the roads all Adongo mentioned from Hohoi to Kweve to Pandai, and
That
from
is
all
a 4-year
of
program.
them.
4-year
It don't even have 4 years. So
it's a 4-year program.
So
why?
even all that, if you quantify,
you want the 4 years ought to be put in 2026.
If you quantify
that
for 4 years.
For 4 years.
Yes.
If you quantify that, just do your what they call 3% of GDP. Just even 5. Just even do for 5 years. You cannot achieve that.
Oh.
Just even do 5% of your
Wishful
GDP.
thinking.
You get just even do 5% of your GDP on infrastructure investment, capital investment. You cannot achieve that. So that's what I'm saying, that when you throw out and you put artificial intelligence features out there for people, they will enjoy it. Basically, that's what they are doing. 2, wages.
Yeah, you end on wages for me.
That is only a component of it.
Yeah, please, you do that for me. It's
wages will take 5.7% of GDP. Interest payment, what they are going to use to pay interest, is equivalent to what they want to invest in infrastructure development. 3.6% of GDP.
How much was it?
Okay, statutory payment, 4% of GDP. I'll have to give you the actual figures.
2024, how much was it?
2024, I don't have the 2024 figures right now.
You won't have.
But the reason 2024 was even there was a moratorium. You don't even get 2024. There was a moratorium on the service of interest because we are going through the debt exchange program. All right. So there was even a lot of space for us in 2024 because of the debt standstill. So we know this. You don't need to ask me for the figures, or you also know this. Okay.
I know why.
And I'm saying that he's talking of debt to GDP. What has the government done?
Now 45%.
Yes. What has the government done to bring it down? Nothing, except one, the stability we are having in the exchange rate. That's the only thing. But all the reduction we are seeing is as a result of the debt exchange program that they know nothing about. I'll conclude on this. He mentioned about fiscal reforms. Which of those initiatives that they have so-called introduced were not presented in the last budget or in the last government? The Debt Fiscal Responsibility Act. Which government? Again, the what you call fiscal deficit not going beyond 45%.
Yeah.
It was part of the reform that was presented before that. Unfortunately, I must admit, it wasn't passed before the last parliament elapsed. They reintroduced that by way of amendment to the Public Financial Management Act. So basically, it's a template they are following. And Providence, and as the goals will be good to them and kind to them, I know this is an IMF-supported program. We are in an IMF economy. All the achievement, I'm happy that you drew his attention, and then Doctor also mentioned it, that all the successes we are chalking would only stand the test after we've gone out of the IMF program. 2025, 2027 is a real test of this government, whether or not it can actually keep its fidelity to the macroeconomic indicators, or they will drill from the program.
Kabiru, let me thank you. Doc, you've listened to the two sides. You've heard from the majority, you've heard from the minority on the budget. What would you say finally, going forward, what government should do, what the people should expect in 2026?
Thank you, Philip. I believe that the budget is basically government intentions in terms of expenditure and revenue. And so the plans are bold. We are excited about the fact that we are investing in infrastructure. To build on the productive base of the economy. And so, yes, but the reality of it is in the implementation. And so, like I said, a lot of the projects and programs that we see, some of them have cyclically been observed in budgets. This is not the first time we are seeing the Kumasi-Accra Road in the budget, for example. And so the implementation is critical. The efficiency in the usage of public funds. And in that regard, I know that the minister also mentioned on the value for money. Yeah,
value for money unit to be created at the finance ministry.
Exactly. We know that procurement is a big problem in this country. It's a conduit for corruption. Government expenditure is always overbloated. And so in that regard, we hope that that office would work efficiently and not another conduit to delay and extort funds from contractors and all. But overall, my expectation is that if the funding is available, and I must indicate that a lot of the big push infrastructure funding is based on mineral resources and oil revenue. Oil revenues have been going down due to reduction in oil production in the country. And so all these, there are a lot of what ifs. The ambition is great. We hope that if all things are equal, there's improvement in the connectivity, access to roads and connecting farms to factories and all. The young people are waiting and looking for jobs. The evidence we saw last week with the stampede and the death of, unfortunately, young people in the quest to enroll in the military are all indicators of the extent of the hopelessness that exists in terms of the need to generate jobs for young people. And so for me, I think
Will this budget do that?
This budget has promised a number of things, and I'm saying that if the implementation is right, it holds a bit of promise. At least we do not see that the budget is a bit futuristic, investing in infrastructure, investing in oil palm plantation, for example. But I see that the emphasis really should also be on value addition. Because when you look at palm oil production, we have done this decades with cocoa, for example.
Sure.
Although the value addition for palm oil, for palm plantation is vast and wider than cocoa production.
That's true.
I mean, this will take a while. I mean, it will take about 3 to 4 years for the fruits, the trees to bear fruits for us to see. But it's an investment, and I think that we should not end at the agricultural bit. We should invest in the value addition, which is important in the creation of quality jobs. And so, for example, I keep insisting, a number of the jobs that we are rolling out are sort of temporary in nature. As we move on, government should bring the private sector on board to create the needed jobs that can afford people the quality lives that they are looking for after graduating from school. So in all, the truth will come out in the implementation. Efficiency, value for money, and government sticking to its course of spending within its limits with tighter controls on government expenditure is critical towards the delivery of what the budget is promising.
Fantastic. Dr. Priscilla Chumesi Bafo, before I bring you in, lawyer Vicky Bright has a message, and I think it's only fair that I read that out. She says, it's a pity that I had left the studio before Kabiru launched a personal attack on me. I have nothing personal against the former Chief Justice. Neither am I telling the minority how it should conduct its business. As a Ghanaian, I have every right to express my opinion that the minority should have been present at the vetting of the new CJ to put their questions to him directly. This would have been good for all Ghanaians. The fact that I do not see a problem with the president's actions regarding Article 146, insofar as Justice Tokonu's matter is concerned, does not suggest that I have a personal problem with Justice Tokonu. To arrive at such a conclusion is quite ridiculous and has no basis whatsoever. To also suggest that I am the only woman in Ghana who does not support her is not only erroneous, but very simplistic. We should refrain from personal attacks. We are all Ghanaians and everyone's opinion must be respected, whether or not one agrees with them. That's lawyer Vicky Bright. Lawyer, thank you. That's fine. Yeah, what do you think now? I mean, after your presentation, you've heard from the two politicians, finally.
So I think what's important is there are some very good programs that have been highlighted in the budget.
Yes.
So I'm happy the two members of parliament are here. We need to accelerate the process of passing the law. And as we were discussing, I mean, people are expecting these tax reforms to take effect immediately. So we have to accelerate the process of making sure the appropriation bill is passed and the relevant acts are passed so that we start getting the benefit of that. And I'll mention the allocation to capital expenditure, supporting infrastructure development. That is something that I think we should support.
Okay.
Because you are increasing the value of your GDP when you make these some of these projects, such as the Accra Kumasi Expressway.
Mm-hmm.
For your information, that project has been on the drawing board under a PPP framework for more than 20 years.
Oh, you don't mean
And
it?
yes, so this is from 2005 to date. It's over 2 decades, and we've still been so we've gone through feasibility study and all. So this time we should implement it. So we shouldn't leave it at feasibility stage. We shouldn't leave it as where we've had all these drawings.
Yeah, the minister says 3 years it will be completed.
I'm told it's a total new road, though.
Yeah, it is a total new. It's not the normal. It's not the normal Accra Kumasi stretch. It is something new.
And that is actually a good strategy, because some of the challenges we had in the current project is that there are so many connection points.
Sure.
And so for you to avoid that and for you to toll it and get the revenues, you need to use a new expressway where there are not so many connection points and you avoid the issue.
Yes.
Because we started this project even before Nairobi, Mombasa in Kenya. They have completed that, and we are still where we are after more than 20 years. So this time, we expect it to be implemented in 3 years. The second one is some of the policies or initiatives that we've seen. Historically, we've seen the cassava starch initiative. We've heard about the one district, one factory. We've heard all manner of policies. The problem has been sustainable implementation of the policies. I remember Kufuor administration started the cassava starch initiative.
The PSI project.
A lot of these, I mean, the question is where are they? Same thing, the first administration of John Mahama also had some initiative. Today, some of the initiatives are not there. So I think we should, and the reason why we have some of this problem is that we don't use existing institutions to implement them. So if you have a department under the Ministry of Trade that has a program or there's an initiative that's supposed to support that, we should use the same ministry to implement the program so that there's institutional memory. We don't need to establish a new secretariat for that, because what happens is that we appoint people who are politically exposed, and so whenever there's a new administration, we change those people and the program dies. We should use existing institutions to implement our programs. We have PPP units at the Ministry of Finance, so you have a big project that we want to implement using public-private partnership. We should use that department to do it. We shouldn't create new secretariat, new district, new department to implement projects, because once there's a change in administration, that project dies out. And I think that's something that we should all aim at. And I guess...
Fantastic.
Yes, okay.
Yao Apia Latte there. Thank you so much. But before I say goodbye, let me say a big thank you to our proud sponsors. Bank of Africa, as strong as a group, as close as a partner. MTN, everywhere you go. Ashesi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Robert & Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care service provider for 33 plus years. My Way, dial *165# on MTN to join My Way today. Syntex Tank, it's strong, it's tough. Activa International Insurance, our clients, our passion. International Facilities Management Association, Safari Valley Eco Park, bringing you closer to nature. Valex Lease, your affordable document management solutions, and Gold Board Jewelry, pure, precious, proudly Ghanaian. A big thank you to lawyer Victoria Bright, Dr. Priscilla Chumesi Bafo, Yao Apia Latte, the Honorable Isaac Adongo, and Honorable Dr. Mahama Tia Abdul Kabiru, MP for Walewale constituency. My name is Philip Osei Bonsu. Samson Ladi Anyenini will be back next week, God willing, on Newsfile. Good afternoon.